as well as printed brochures with translated versions.
Question number 12, the Honourable Rick Marker.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Veterans Affairs. When can veterans expect to have a full response from the Government in response to the Law Commission's report, a new support scheme for veterans?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, work is ongoing, but the Government remains committed to providing a piece of legislation that meets the needs of our older veterans from World War II and the needs of our current and future veterans of modern-day deployments.
Order. Before we go any further, the question was a primary question. It did ask when. And while there may be no specific answer, I'd have thought some reference to that in a primary question would be appropriate. The Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, speaking to point of order, it is difficult to give a date when work is still ongoing.
Order. That would have been a very good answer. Supplementary question, Honourable Rick Marker.
Mr Speaker, does the Minister agree with the Law Commission's two principles that veterans should be supported equivalent to other New Zealanders, and that those injured serving the country in a war or emergency should be supported above that of other New Zealanders? If so, when will this be given effect to, and how long will the National Government deem it acceptable for ACC claimants to be better supported than those veterans who have served their country and been injured in the course of that service?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Mr Speaker, the previous government had 9 years to address this issue, and instead what they did was send it off to the Law Commission the last year of its term. And frankly, we are addressing this issue. It is a very complex issue, and we're not going to rush it and get it wrong.
The Honourable Rick Marker.
Supplementary question, Mr.
The Honourable Rick Marker.
Mr Speaker, what does it say to the Minister? What does it say about the National Government's priorities when veterans have been waiting for a year or more for an answer to the Law Commission's report, when South Canterbury Finance's wealthy investors were attended to immediately by paying out their cash and interest, costing over $1 billion?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, it says an awful lot about the Labour Party's priorities when they didn't even bother to...
Order. I say to both members, I'm on my feet. Now, the Minister could see I was on my feet and didn't resume her seat. She may be grumpy with me for pulling her up over the first answer, but order. We don't start... I mean, the question I accept had a political dimension, and therefore I was not going to be expecting from the Minister a purely benign answer. However, to start the answer with something to do with the Labour Party is barely attempting to answer the question asked, because the Labour Party can't be anything to do with the Minister's responsibilities. I can accept that in the fullness of an answer there may be issues that do spill over from the previous government, but to start the answer that way is not very helpful. Because the time has passed, I invite the Honourable Rick Marker to repeat his question, supplementary question.
Very good commentary, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker, my supplementary question is, what does it say about the National Government's priorities when veterans have been waiting for a year for an answer to the Law Commission's report, when South Canterbury's wealthy investors were attended to immediately by paying back their cash and interest, costing the taxpayer over $1 billion?
The Honourable Judith Collins.
Well, Mr Speaker, it says an awful lot about priorities that the previous government actually put in place, the legislation that required the current government to pay back the South Canterbury Finance investors straight away. But it also says a lot about it that the member who's asking the question didn't even bother to raise this issue with the Select Committee this morning when I was...
No, that is not acceptable. The first part of the answer was perfectly fine. And that brings to a close questions for oral answer. I call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 1 and 2.